Reboot, Revival, Rehash, Recast!
Hey guys, PIEGUYRULZ here, and welcome back to the special 10th episode of The Recast. If you didn't catch that amazing introduction, which I don't know who starts a YouTube video like 5 seconds in, but maybe you did. I am here, as always, with my co-host, the Jolly Green Giant, MonstersReview.
Howdy, thank you for that wonderful introduction.
We are also here with two of my favorite people on this platform.
Aw, shucks.
Oh, thanks.
One of them made that amazing intro, Kuro the Artist.
Hello, guys. What's up? Thank you for that compliment on my intro. And I'm happy to be back on the recast. I'm really excited for the discussion we got today.
Yeah, and the other guy is Shadow.
Hey,
Yeah, that guy.
Shadow, yeah, that guy. No, hey, how's it going? I'm glad to be here.
Shadow, what did you bring to this? Did you have an animation?
Come on, Shadow. You're making me look like a tryhard.
I can draw some stick figures if you want.
All right, stay tuned to the end of this recast for an awesome stick figure fight scene, or a My Little Pony music video, whichever.
Yeah.
We don't talk about that.
Now, as of this, because of the way this worked out timing-wise with the Crossover Nexus coming out, the audience probably doesn't know this, but we had planned for a while for both of you two guys to be kind of our steady recurring guests. Like, about every 10 episodes or so, we're going to have both of you back on to talk about Powerpuff Girls and Ben 10, respectively.
Yeah.
It just kind of so happened that this is your second appearance, but you guys are very important to the recast. You're our B team. You're our second string. Were Monsters and I to fall ill, you guys have to continue the recast by contract.
Oh, yes. I remember that clause. It's on the 17th paragraph.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you guys are a part of the recast family, and I hope our fans like you, because you guys should be on a lot more.
Well, they better, because I ain't going anywhere.
Nice.
I like to think of the recast as the Olive Garden, you know? We have really crappy Italian food, and we treat people like family, so.
But monsters, don't say that. They're going to ask for breadsticks.
Not the
Breadsticks are the
breadsticks.
bomb. I love those things.
So, today we're going to talk about Olive Garden.
Right. So, yeah, today we have a special show because we are talking about the brand new, hot off the presses, I'm sure there's like 8 million YouTube videos about this already, but the Crossover Nexus, that really, really interesting piece of media that's going to be amazing to talk about. We have that episode. We're going to talk about another very interesting crossover that I know for a fact there's some diverse opinions on, the TTG v PPGs, or in like normal speak, the Teen Titans Go versus the Powerpuff Girls. We also have a really interesting question, and as usual, what we watched this week. We have our first podcast with 4 people on it, and it's extra special because today happens to be someone on this podcast's birthday.
Really?
Yeah, thanks for remembering. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no! Well, that's awkward. It's Monsters' birthday. We're not going to sing. That'd be a little awkward on a podcast. Although I think that song is not royalty-free anymore, or is royalty-free.
I thought it became, I'm pretty sure it became public domain.
Yep, we could sing.
And many more.
Right.
That's what everybody does.
But not to derail the podcast too much, I got you a little something. So,
Huh?
yep. I knew you wouldn't expect this. I put it in the little Discord chat privately, but I heard that you were gonna get a Nintendo Switch
my
relatively
God.
soon. So preemptively, I decided to get you just a little bit of eShop points.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, no, for those of you that don't know, I'm not the biggest gamer in the world, but I'm really looking forward to Smash Bros. So I'm going to buy a Switch really soon. And we're going to play a lot of games. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right. So there you go. I just thought I'd do that because it'd be nice.
Thank you.
Also because it's my birthday in 2 weeks. So
I have to return the favor now.
yeah. So also, we have a Discord for the recast. It's in the description. If you want to send us questions or have any input on the episodes we watched that we'll share in the episode, please do so there. So, how are you guys doing?
I'm doing fantastic, honestly.
That's good.
Yeah, I've had a great day. I've been looking forward to this all day, so, I'm pretty hype.
Yeah, this has been, like, I've looked forward to this in the week, because this is... So we 3 of us watched the Crossover Nexus together, but then, like, we couldn't talk about it because we got to save it for the podcast.
Right. I made a tweet about it, but I didn't really say my opinion. I just said, like, if you're a fan of Cartoon Network nostalgia, make sure you check it out.
Right. And also, like, yeah, I think at least two people on this podcast got asked if we were going to talk about it, and then you were like, you plugged the recast, so that was a smart move.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move into our first segment here of what we watched in the past week. Let's start with Shadow.
Let's see. What did I watch in the past week?
Or so, which is what you watched in the past lifetime.
Well, the past lifetime, I could go on forever. No, what I've watched recently is, aside from Crossover Nexus, I watched the first episode of Hilda, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Nice.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was good. I might check out the rest of it when I get the opportunity, and then I don't know. I think that's the only thing I've really watched, but yeah, I liked it. So
nice. What made you not watch the rest of it right away?
Just well, time first of all,
Right.
but also I feel like it's something like I'll be more attached to it as time goes on, whereas right now, as with most shows, I kind of need to just let it sink in and let my interest build more. Because the first episode was good, but it didn't like blow me away or anything.
That's fair.
So.
I only asked because I talked about it a few weeks ago, and I'm kind of I enjoyed it and I liked it, but it's not. I just feel like it's something I would have liked more when I was younger. I think it's good,
Right.
but it just didn't. It didn't grip me in the way. I just kind of feel like I couldn't relate to it as much because I'm older now.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. It didn't draw me in as much as, say, something like Final Space did earlier this year, where like episode 1, I was like completely sold on the entire thing. But this one, I feel like I'm going to need to watch a little bit more before I can say that. So
Fair. All right, Kuro, what did you watch?
I haven't had a lot of time to watch things, but I have. I watched Ready Player One for the first time finally a couple of days ago. I really dug that movie. A lot of cameos. Sort of similar to the Crossover Nexus we got coming up.
Good to pick for this week. So far, we've talked about Smash Bros, which is the ultimate crossover.
it really is.
And now you're talking about this, so pretty
Yeah.
fitting.
And Flash came back, the Arrowverse. I don't know if you guys are into that or not. The CW has 4 different TV shows that all share a universe and they overlap and whatnot.
Ugh.
Yeah, it like it's exactly what you think it would be. Like at first it wasn't. That's the thing. That's what hooked me. Is like it was very intricate, very like the worlds were separated enough to hold their interest and whatnot, but now it's like I'm thinking like 10 years time, if you try to watch like just one of these shows without seeing the others, it's like homework. So
CW shows have that reputation for me of just the obnoxious angst teenager stuff. So
Yeah.
rightly or wrongly, that's just kind of like what I think about that stuff.
no, I mean like I agree. Like at least with Arrow's perspective, it didn't start off that way, but ultimately it took the CW route. It's on its 7th season now, which premieres next week. Only The Flash premiered this week. Yeah, and it was going downhill. Then season 5, it like hit a stride. It was like best season it's ever done, even better than the first 2. And then season 6 was and now it's like on season 7, and it's trying to like hit that comeback. And the actors are posting like, oh, this is going to be season 1 level, trying to hype it up. And it's like, I want to get my hopes up, but I don't want to be disappointed. So I'm just going to wait till it comes out and see how I feel about it. But yeah, that's about it. Just Ready Player One in The Flash.
Nice. So more crossover stuff. Monsters. How's it about you?
So you're not going to believe this. I actually watched Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Cartoon All-Stars Come to the Rescue. No, I'm joking. Could you imagine? Yeah, no, I can relate to Shadow because I also didn't have that much time. But my intrigue in the Crossover Nexus did lead me to watch an episode of OKKO on the Cartoon Network website. The episode was called Lad and Logic, and it's basically an origin story about how Lord Boxman, who's basically the main antagonist, ends up near the plaza where the show takes place. And it's a really upbeat episode that also has some really funny moments, also not necessarily serious moments, but more heartfelt ones. I just gotta say, I love the music and the score in this episode so much. Maybe this is a thing throughout the entire show, but the music was just so good. And And I also just really like the art style too, kind of the rough edges on the characters, the color scheme. But no, I really did enjoy the episode, and I do see myself watching some more OKKO in the future.
Okay.
I do want to comment on the soundtrack, what you were saying, because I saw online they posted the soundtrack to the Crossover Nexus OKKO. I don't know if it was the same people that do the show that do the crossover, but they had a really good soundtrack. So
Yeah.
if it's the same people that did the show, I think the show's got a pretty solid background music for what they got going on, which a lot of shows, like, I don't want to say be lacking, but they don't seem to put enough effort into it.
It's a really important element.
Absolutely.
And it's something often people don't realize entirely. It's often a subconscious thing, how music can affect how you feel about the show.
Oh, yeah.
What'd you watch?
Well, so this was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, but I thought I'd bring it up on the podcast because it'd be fun. Both Kuro and I watched Cloctopus.
Yes.
So,
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. I almost
everywhere
forgot we
is
watched
squid.
that.
yes, if you recall from the podcast, the second episode, the third episode?
Third episode.
Third episode. We did a trivia game, and the description of the episode was something like Ben and Gwen enter a town where everything is squid, or everywhere is squid. and it wasn't everything, it was everywhere. And so season 1 of the Ben 10 reboot came to Netflix, which is kind of confusing because it's also... It's somewhere else as well. Like, it's... I don't know. It's weird how Cartoon Network's dividing up its shows now across the platforms, because Hulu has a lot of their other shows. But anyway, that was one of the episodes I checked out, and I was actually decently surprised. It's not a typo. It is a squid pier. There's like squid ice cream that they get served. The idea of it is that Steam Smith is this steampunk old-timey neckbeard who comes out of the ocean in a mechanical steampunk squid. Or octopus or kraken or something, and it wants to defend the pier from being like renovated. It's like going to be remade or something, and he stands for the old ways. And Ben can't fight him because Ben's afraid of squids. That's the story. I was actually pleasantly surprised. Ben's a random fear was kind of funny. Gwen tried to help. Grandpa Max was there. He was probably him and his just like obnoxious. Got to teach the kids a lesson. Got to reframe everything into a lesson. But yeah, I wouldn't say it was like an amazing episode or experience, but for a reboot episode of anything, it was highly competent. I enjoyed it. What did you think of it, Kuro?
I mean, yeah, it wasn't bad. Like, I wouldn't say like, oh, this is a bad episode. It's definitely one of those episodes you'd watch where you'd be like, yeah, this is pretty good. It's nothing existential or anything. I'm sure a lot of like, if you're a fan of the reboot, you'd definitely like the episode, but nothing groundbreaking, but very entertaining.
Yeah.
Some pretty good humor.
I mean, that's really what stood out to me in it was the humor, was just the exaggeration upon Ben's fear. And Ben has this fear because he was in a play. Like, it's not that he actually had any experiences with squids, but the bullies picked on him, and that's why he doesn't like squids. And there's also some great, like, because he is a neckbeard. Like, that's for some reason the steampunk villain he's just like this fat schlubby guy that's like, change is bad. And then he's like, he says something and Gwen's like, you wouldn't speak that way to a lady, would you? And he was like, oh, of course not, m'lady. Like, he says something like that. And it's just like, it's pretty funny. So, yeah. And then the other thing, so I've been watching Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated because I'd been meaning to check that show out for a while, and it came to the Boomerang streaming app. And if you remember, I'm stuck with this app service for another like week and a half, or actually another few days only at this point, because I accidentally forgot to unsubscribe from the free trial. And so I've been trying to kind of rush through the show to finish it up so I don't have to pay for another month of this service. And I don't want to talk about it now because I will be talking about it at a later date, maybe closer to Halloween. But there was one episode that's kind of a break from the norm in the series that is a crossover, so I feel like it'd be interesting to talk about. Are you guys aware of like the Scooby-Doo knockoffs in the 70s?
Like I don't remember the name, but there's like some dog with like a beanie and a hoodie or something that like was also made by Hanna-Barbera.
Are you talking about like Jabberjaw and like those
Yep.
those cartoons?
Something. I just remember like Hanna-Barbera like made like a knockoff Scooby-Doo, even though they own Scooby-Doo. So it's like, I don't
They
know,
made
but
a bunch.
that's the one that came to mind.
So Jabberjaws was one of them. The Funky Phantom, which was the one I'd never heard of, or it's they're with a ghost, and the ghost also has a ghost cat. I don't know. Speed Buggy.
Oh wow,
I remember that one.
He sputters a
Yeah,
lot.
I remember that one.
And there's one other one that I'm not remembering. But anyway, basically, this episode of Mystery Incorporated has Scooby-Doo sick, and he has a dream where there's a mystery solvers competition, which there also was in the real world. He's just dreaming up his version of events. And in it, all these other Hanna-Barbera teams that were knockoffs of Scooby-Doo show up to this competition. And all the teenagers get captured, and it's up to the sidekicks to save the day. They're all locked in a school. And so it's Scooby and Jabberjaws and Speed Buggy and the Funky Phantom all coming together to solve this. And it's interesting. Like it's really weird to see them be that meta. And also they changed the art style to be close to classic Scooby-Doo.
I was just gonna ask that if they got like updated character designs.
They didn't. Like, they intentionally went back to the old designs. Like, the Mystery Inc., including Scooby, went back to the old design, and the other characters have close to their old style. And so it was really interesting.
That's weird. I mean, it sounds interesting, but I wonder, like, who they were doing that for. Like, if there's a fan base surrounding that, like, hard enough for them to want to do that, or if it was more, like, for themselves.
Scooby-Doo very, very often tries to subvert its, like, the things that it does because it's so formulaic. And this is Mr. Inc. is kind of one of those shows that is trying hard to subvert a lot of their conventions, although playing a lot of them straight. And so this was kind of one of them where it was like all the sidekicks. I don't know. It was interesting. It was just kind of weird to see because there was no other indication that these other Hanna-Barbera characters were going to show up in this show. So to just have Jabberjaws suddenly be there and be relevant for like 5 minutes was really interesting. There's also a subplot where, because they're locked in the school, where the principal of the school, who I don't think had been shown before, learns to like loosen up and become more of an action hero. It's weird. It's if you're interested in seeing like a really weird version of Scooby-Doo that crosses over with other Hanna-Barbera shows, this one episode, it's called like Mystery Solvers Club. Check it out. I don't know. It's not indicative of Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, but it very much breaks from that formula, and it's really weird.
Maybe they should have crossed over with the Problem Solvers.
Oh, God.
I'd watch it.
All right, so next up is news. There is no news. Next up, there probably was news, but I figured we're going to talk a lot about the crossovers, so we'll just skip over the news segment. We have one question this week, and I thought this was a really good question to ask because it's an interesting question, and there's a lot of us here, and maybe we'll get some different perspectives. But Nerdy Thespian asks, I came across a theory online recently that stated that the reason shows like Teen Titans Go and The Amazing World of Gumball are aired more on CN are because kids don't want to watch or can't watch / comprehend overarching storylines. They used examples of Steven Universe. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think that kids don't want to watch or can't handle watching overarching storylines in TV shows?
I agree that that's definitely why they do it. And I can see the reasoning for it because it would just be a lot easier to just tune into like a show in any episode and get hooked on it. But I disagree with that logic because, at least from my perspective, like me and like who I've talked to growing up, like we've always been able to comprehend like I mean, it's not as hard as like people think. Like they think like just because a show has like some type of like continuity or something. It's more about like if the show does it a little bit too hard, where it's like, let's take Supernatural for a second, just because we were talking about CW shows earlier. That's pretty much a show where at this point you have to see all of the previous episodes to understand. Where it's a show like that has like a softer realm of continuity.
Like the first Ben 10, where there's continuity, but it's not much. It's like Gwen gets the power to use magic. Like that's something that happens, and then she does it again. But like it's not. You're not locked out. Yeah,
so it's like, yeah, like one episode Ben unlocks Cannonball, then from then on he has Cannonball. You understand that because you've seen the episode, and if you didn't, when you eventually see it, you're kind of like, oh, that's nice. And I mean I've never seen Steven Universe, so would you say it's how heavy of a continuity story is it? Is it really like
very heavy? It's very to the point where, I mean, there's definitely standalone episodes, but to the point where I'm pretty convinced that the TV movie coming up is going to be an attempt to get new people in, because it's. At this point, if you were to show up for Reunited, like I think it'd get your interest, but I don't think you'd understand anything that's happening in it.
Okay, so I mean, then I can kind of get it, but I mean, like the obviously Steven Universe is still going and it still has a fan base. So even for them going that route, I think that them understanding that certain shows, like certain audiences go to shows that like have more of an episodic feel and certain audience goes to a more overarching story feel, them understanding that is great, but they shouldn't just be like, oh well, it's just easier for us to make episodic shows, so let's just do that. I think they should put an equal amount of and it's not even like impossible. They used to do this. They would just put an equal amount of advertising for both fields and they would get decent viewership. So I mean, it's already been proven to work. They're just sort of like, I guess, less confident that their old ways could still be successful in like the modern advertising market.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Like, I understand why the more one-off episode type shows are aired more, because it's just easier to kind of consume that way versus going into something like, again, Steven Universe, where if you watch like season 5, you're probably not going to know anything that's going on. But I don't think that, like, the one part of this question is thinking whether or not kids can't handle watching overarching storylines and shows. I don't necessarily agree with that part. I mean, I don't want to say back when I was a kid, but yeah, back when I was a kid, I would watch shows with overarching stories. Like, I'd watch Pokemon, like the Pokemon anime and the Yu-Gi-Oh animes. I'd watch both of those every single day at like the same time on the channel. Like, I think it was like 9 to 10 p.m. or 8 to 9 or something like that on weekdays. Cartoon Network would air Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh back to back every week at the same time. And that's one thing that I think helps overarching shows, is when they have a consistent schedule where you know, like, hey, at this time on this day, the next episode will premiere, and it's consistently doing that. The thing that Cartoon Network's schedule doesn't really do much anymore is have consistency, like from week to week. Like, one week it'll have a ton of Gumball episodes and some Unikitty and some Teen Titans Go, but like no OKKO. And then the next week it'll be OKKO, Summer Camp Island, and Craig of the Creek. And it's like, you know, it varies from week to week, so you never really know what you're gonna get for that week, which, you know, hurts Steven Universe, at least recently, because the times when Steven Universe has finally been airing new episodes, I feel like the ratings have gone down because people aren't consistently seeing Steven Universe aired all the time, you know? And I think that's something that's hurting overarching storylines, is because you need consistent viewers for that kind of show, but if you're not consistently airing it, then the viewers won't be able to, like, always predict when it will be on, you know?
I'm going to take a counterpoint.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, I just want to say from personal example, now I grew up a lot on, as mentioned, a lot on those early 2000s action shows like Static Shock, Spectacular Spider-Man, Teen Titans, etc. But one show that I did not watch growing up, despite it being, or two shows despite them being on a lot and close to each other, Samurai Jack and Justice League. I did not get into those shows despite them being kind of in the same category. And I don't know, I think it was just I kind of felt locked out of it, or maybe like I didn't want that serious of a show. Now, I'm not saying that like all kids are like me. I'm just providing an example. I think it's easy to say, yeah, all kids want that, or all kids like that, or all kids can understand that. But I think the truth is that it's a little complicated. You know, what kids find taste in, or what kids can understand are going to vary based upon like age, for one. You know, that's a pretty wide demographic. But the thing about this question that I kind of like agree with is that in terms of airing, like, I don't know about you guys, but I don't care. Like, if Cartoon Network were to throw up episodes of Steven Universe online instead of actually airing them, it doesn't matter to me. I'm either watching them on internet television or just on the internet anyway. Like, I think what's changed is that young and old, for shows like Steven Universe, the people that care about those kind of shows are going to seek them out online anyway. Now, I don't think that Cartoon Network's done the best job of releasing this stuff online, like just randomly dropping episodes without warning, and how they don't really have like one set home for their streaming stuff. But I think, like, ultimately, yeah, I don't think Steven Universe necessarily needs to be aired that much other than to gain new viewers. I think in terms of just like the people that care about that show are going to seek it out online anyway. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, and I don't think that's exclusively an us thing. I think that's a younger people thing too, more so maybe than us.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong, I agree, but then you could also say, well, then they should probably try to make it a more consistent thing with, releasing episodes on the app instead of either like, just doing it unannounced or doing it at an inconsistent rate or something like that. Because at least from what I've seen, haven't they just been kind of doing it whenever they felt like?
Yeah, I mean, they do advertise sometimes. I mean, you're not wrong. Like, listen, you'd be hard pressed to find someone who doesn't have a problem with Cartoon Network scheduling. Like I think, airing one episode of Steven Universe like every day at like 7 p.m. or something like that, and just go run through the order in the show, or 2 episodes, that'd be great. But I do think that the reason why Teen Titans Go and Gumball get more airtime is for the exact reason that this says, is because those are the kind of shows that are very easy to just kind of click on and watch if you're a fan of those shows. Steven Universe, I'm not going to watch a random episode of Steven Universe. Never. If there's an episode I really like, I'll go back and watch that, or I'll rewatch the show in order. But I'm not just going to, like, be like, oh, hey, here's, I don't know, like, some random episode. That's just my point. It's just that I think that's why the schedule is the way it is because that stuff is moving online anyway. And I do think that I do think that some kids don't necessarily like continuity heavy stuff. There's adults that don't like that sort of thing. I think the kind of like us, the people that talk about this stuff are typically people who enjoy more complex stories, but that's not everyone, and it's easy to forget.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong. I totally understand why Gumball and Teen Titans Go get air more, and if anything, I think it makes more sense that way. But I kind of agree with what Kuro said about how, try to have a balance instead of just being completely one-sided. Like, Steven Universe doesn't have to air an equal amount of time, but like you said, if it just aired like once at 7 p.m. or 7:30 or whenever, at a consistent pacing from the beginning, people could tune in continuously. Because, I mean, or, there's also online, which, I mean, like, I'm not really even one that should really complain about the schedule, because I haven't watched Cartoon Network Live since like 2008, so.
I watched Crossover Nexus and the Adventure Time finale. but otherwise I'm pretty much with you. But no, I think, I mean, I do also think that it is probably an old media thought of just like, well, give them disposable content, give them the cheap stuff. Don't try to invest in more complicated things that are going to turn people away. But in reality, what you want is something that's continuity heavy that brings people back every day at a certain time, like you watching Yu-Gi-Oh or whatever. Like that's where you hook people.
Yeah, consistent viewership. That's the key.
Yeah, like I like We Bare Bears, but I'm not gonna tune in every week to watch it new. I'm not gonna like catch reruns. Like I'll catch it every once in a while when I feel like it. I'll watch an episode, and then I won't watch it for months. Like Steven Universe, dude, I'm on that new episode. I'm on that. So it's interesting. Monsters, what do you think?
I've been very outspoken about my opinions on the Cartoon Network scheduling issue, obviously, but my opinions basically kind of fall into the vein of what you guys said. Obviously, I grew up with cartoons like Avatar, Teen Titans, Dragon Ball Z. I remember coming home a lot of the time watching Magoozy, new episodes of Code Lyoko and Totally Spies and stuff like that. And I just think that it's one of those things where these executives in business suits think that kids are not capable of doing this when, they actually are. Granted, when we grew up, it was a different time than now. But I actually think, at least this is one of my observations, that perhaps their negligence of airing these continuity cartoons and their prevalence of airing these comedy cartoons that aren't continuity driven, like Teen Titans Go and Gumball, might create some sort of reverse effect in the way that, it's creating a habitat for these cartoons, and kids will get used to them. And due to the fact that they won't see as many continuity-driven cartoons, they're not going to be as fond of them because of that. So the schedule doesn't air these continuity-driven cartoons. Thus, the children viewers would not become as fond of them. Thus, the schedule stays against the favor of continuity-driven cartoons because kids won't want to watch them because the schedule doesn't favor them. If that makes any sense. I know that's like a...
No, it's a feedback loop.
Yeah, but no, I agree. I definitely think continuity-driven cartoons, especially action cartoons, are very high risk, but also high reward. Do you think in a way they're trying to replicate the whole binge-watching phenomenon of streaming?
They might be, but I don't know. I mean, that goes back to the whole thing, though, that these episodes are like one-off things. You know, I can't imagine someone sitting down and binging Teen Titans Go. You know, it's more kind of like
usually when you do that, it's with like Stranger Things, which has like a story that you follow.
Exactly, which again is what helps benefit overarching cartoons, but they aren't playing those on air. I do think that, and Cartoon Network's not the only TV channel that's like struggling with the whole scheduling issue. There's several other channels I can think of that have like their one show they ride off of, or their two shows, like Discovery Family. Like when I was looking at those schedules back in earlier this year, the shows they air, it's like they air one Transformers show and one they air My Little Pony, and they air like one other thing, and that's like 90% of their schedule during the day. It's like those couple of shows, and it's consistent. And I think it is just simply because TV is a dying medium, and they're just trying to figure out what else they can do to kind of, you know, stay relevant while Netflix and Hulu and Amazon take over.
That's to my point, that maybe it is just they know people are going to watch Steven Universe online, either legally or illegally, so why bother airing it to them?
That's true.
You know, like that might be how they're looking at it, because I don't mean to assume that everyone watches Steven Universe in the same way that I do, but it's a lot easier to just say throw up a bunch of Teen Titans Go, and then I don't know, maybe it's like a whale thing. Like, you know how in mobile games these companies look for whales, like anything that has paid services, they don't expect the average person to pay for anything. But they do expect a few people to pay tons and tons and tons of money for that really dank Minion Masters background or whatever. No, someone on this group is a big Minion Masters fan. No, but they don't. They expect someone. Seriously, they expect people. I don't know, wealthy children or adults with tons of disposable income that get addicted to these games to pay tons and tons of money. So maybe that's it. Maybe they don't expect to get a ton of viewership, but they expect, if they just block out these Teen Titans Go in just such a way that it is easy to binge it, even though it's not a continuity binge. I don't know. Maybe that's what they're going for. It's really tough to say, but I figured that'd be interesting to talk about. So, Kuro, would you like to tell us what's going on the podcast next week?
Yes, we'll be talking about the two season 2 finales of both the original series and Ben 10 Alien Force. There's a lot of similarities in the episodes, not just the fact that they're the season 2 finale of their respective series, but there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. I've been really excited about coming on the recast again for this episode for a while, so hope you guys will tune in and check it out and enjoy what we got planned.
Yeah, so those episodes are Back with a Vengeance from Season 2 of Ben 10 Classic and War of the Worlds Parts 1 and 2 from Alien Force. They're pretty good episodes, although if you're not familiar with Ben 10, maybe don't start there. And then the week after that, we are going to be doing something.
You're doing something.
We're gonna be talking about 2 episodes that are created by Billionfold Inc. Fred Rader is in collaboration, and they're both scored by Guy Moon. So we're gonna be talking about, from the Fairly Odd Parents, Scary Godparents, and Danny Phantom, Fright Night, because both episodes are about the protagonist wanting Halloween to be more real and scary. And we will not be talking about the creator of those shows.
Yes.
We just want to talk about the shows. Please don't make it awkward, comment section. All right. Now, are you guys ready for the big event?
Oh, I'm ready.
The main event that you've all been waiting for.
All right. So, for the first time, we're trying something a little different with our discussions in that I wrote out a little outline for us to follow. So hopefully this discussion will be relatively structured. We're going to pretty much, since these 2 crossovers are pretty much not comparable outside of the fact that they are crossovers and the fact that Raven is in both of them, we are mostly going to be just talking about one and then the other and then the comparisons that we do have. I think that makes sense, right? Instead of going back and forth.
Yeah.
So first up, we're going to talk about TTG v PPG. Now, this episode basically has Mojo wanting to find a universe where the heroes do nothing, and he transports himself to the Teen Titans Go universe. The Powerpuff Girls follow him, and he befriends, well, Beast Boy and Cyborg decide to just kind of follow him and hang out with him and help him be evil, whereas the rest of the Titans, the Powerpuff Girls, try to team up with them in order to take Mojo down. Can I just get like a panel here of like who reacted positively to this?
Me
as well.
Really?
So I take it both Kuro and Monsters, you reacted either neutral or negative.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can't. Not that I hated it, but I really can't think of like a single positive thing about it.
I had a couple positives, but my viewpoint on it is that it's tolerable for me.
You know, Shadow, it's interesting that the two people on this podcast that have definitely watched the most of the reboot of Powerpuff Girls end up having there might be a reason here. So to get that kind of bit of trivia out of the way first, this episode was made at the same time as production of season 1 of the Powerpuff Girls reboot was being made. So even though this is based on the Powerpuff Girls reboot, or at least made in conjunction with it, most of it is based on the original Powerpuff Girls. Everything basically but the girls' designs and voice actresses, right? Because
even the designs have thicker outlines.
That's true. That is true. But like, the fact that the day is saved, the fact that there's a narrator. Is there a narrator in the reboot? I don't.
Dude, the narrator in this crossover has more airtime than probably the entirety of the reboot.
Right.
Because he's in like the first 8-ish episodes, and then he shows up in like episode 25 of season 1, and then he's like never in anything else.
So there's
that.
Like, the fact that the girls act more. I don't necessarily want to say
They're not quite themselves, but they're closer than anything the reboot really portrays. They're kind of like an in-between.
Right. They're more competent. But then again, I mean, that might also just be because of the comparison with the Teen Titans.
I thought they were I thought they were quippy, but I also thought that the girls in this episode were a little bland and uninteresting.
Well, I mean, that's if you compare them to the original Powerpuff Girls, correct?
Mm-hmm.
If you compare them to the reboot girls,
they're actually, I'd say they're more exciting to watch than the reboot girls.
Right.
Because at least they make, grounded decisions.
I was gonna say I really didn't have a. I guess this is a positive thing to say about it. I really didn't have a problem with the Powerpuff Girls at all in the reboot. And I was actually, it got me thinking like. Because I've seen a lot of clips, and I think I might have seen a full episode. I haven't seen a lot of the Powerpuff Girls reboot, but from what I've seen, it was like relatively intolerable, at least for me. And like in this crossover, they were the only thing on screen that like I was actually like, wow, I am not annoyed by this, and that sucks because I don't like jumping on the Teen Titans Go hate bandwagon. Even though there's a lot I don't like about the show. And I genuinely, I saw the movie in theaters. I do like the movie. But, like, this episode, like, takes everything I don't like about Teen Titans Go and just, like, puts it, like, right on a pedestal.
Yes.
So,
really?
It was, like, at least, everything but the self-referential stuff about the original series. But, like, everything I don't like about the show is in this crossover.
So that's interesting because I kind of enjoyed that probably the most, is that. So, like, the whole conceit with this is that this is from the era of Teen Titans Go where they're self-aware. Like, I don't know how long. I mean, they were relatively self-aware from the start, but, like, there's been a number of episodes, to my understanding, where the show outright admits, like, these characters are not heroes. They're just kind of awful people. They're losers. They're pathetic. And this episode just highlights it to the nth degree. It portrays the characters as complete idiots. Like... And I like that. I thought that was funny because I don't like these characters. I don't like.
But that's the thing. Like, you don't like the characters. I don't think the characters are even compelling in a comedic sense. Like, I think SpongeBob does the whole unintentional antagonist thing really well. But Beast Boy and Cyborg for me in this episode were more irritating than they were funny.
Well, I don't care about those two at all. Those two, I think I do agree with you that those two are pretty useless. Like, they might as well not be in it. I think the reason why they went off with Mojo is because the other three Titans have more direct comparisons with the girls, and these two don't. I mean, I guess Beast Boy maybe with Bubbles, but Starfire is a much better match. But like, yeah, those two, forget them. But like, Robin and Starfire, Robin and Raven mostly, just like talking down to the girls, and the girls just kind of like looking at the screen, like, you guys seeing this? Like, that was funny because they're obviously meant to be wrong. Like, they're not played straight.
I think that joke dragged on a bit too long though.
I
like,
agree.
They carried that through the whole episode. And then like at the end, like when Robin was trying to give them like a genuine compliment, like, oh, maybe you two are, whatever he was saying. I thought he was joking at first just because of everything that he said in the episode. And then like they responded sincerely. I'm like, wow, they're actually trying to make this like a serious moment. I am not feeling it.
I thought it was because it's kind of a play on like the idea that they actually learned something, because they didn't. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like,
That's how I took it.
yeah.
I mean, if that's what they were going for, I didn't feel that. I felt like they were trying to like make it seem like I learned something, and like it didn't work out. But I mean, if
That's fair.
they were trying to make it not work out, then good for them. But I guess I didn't get that.
What did you guys think of the story of this episode?
Story?
Hang on, this isn't the this isn't the crossover Nexus portion. There is a story.
I mean, it makes sense. I'll give it that.
Kuro.
Mojo can just like nonchalantly go to another dimension,
Yeah.
but still has problems with the Powerpuff Girls. So
Mojo captured the narrator in an episode of the original show. He can do whatever he wants.
I did think that was clever, though, the fact that he's like, I guess I'll have to find a dimension where superheroes don't care.
Well,
Like, I thought that was clever.
what about the dimension where superheroes don't exist? Come on, Mojo.
all right, Shadow, what did you think then of the story?
I mean, okay, so it's passable. I mean, it ultimately feels like it's just wasted time, and this is one thing I kind of have against the crossover is like the majority of the time between the Titans and the girls is a pointless challenge, I guess. I don't get me wrong, I like how it's set up because the girls make a comment and Raven's just like, that sounds like a challenge, and Bubbles is like, how did that sound like a challenge? It was like, I just love that, but the whole challenge itself felt like it wasn't really getting anywhere.
Yeah.
And it just felt like it was filling time.
I like that aspect of it, though, like the friendly competitiveness between the two, especially towards the end when Starfire and Bubbles get all competitive over who can be the most kind.
Well, that was the best. But that
It was.
I think what Shadow's about to say, if I'm going to read your mind for a second, I like the idea of that, right? The idea of the girls facing off, because again, those three Titans, they have a decent bit in common with the girls, but the way they play it off is not the best because Bubbles and Starfire's is great. They actually compete at something. Raven and Buttercup, Raven just decides to sit it out, which isn't funny. And then I don't even remember what Robin's was with.
Robin's just like does something dumb and then Blossom like pulls up a note or something. I forget.
Is that what you were thinking, Shadow?
Yeah, it's basically that. I love the idea, and yes, Bubbles and Starfire was great, but again, the other two, it didn't really feel like it was that good.
Yeah.
That well written.
So what about the Monkey Army song, guys?
Oh, no.
That's anything with Cyborg, Beast Boy, and Mojo, I don't like.
That's one of the examples I feel like where a cartoon show adds a song to an episode just because they want a song there. Like the lyrics are literally just like, we're building a monkey army over and over again to like some like very uninspired like montage that I can't even remember at this point. So I feel like it was just like some episode filler that could have like they could have taken that time and spent it towards like some more like interesting crossover stuff. Yeah. Because I mean, if you think about this in concept, it could have been something like really interesting, but Monkey Army. So
I've heard a lot of Teen Titans Go songs. This is definitely one of the weakest ones.
Really? Whoa,
Yes.
really?
Yes, there's there's some actual like songs in there that it's like, oh wow, okay, I guess I can give them props. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's really repetitive, but Night Begins to Shine, I can give him credit for that. I can also give him credit for that one rap that Beast Boy did, but
I thought the Let's Be Serious song was pretty funny from that episode.
that one's good too.
what about did any of you guys see the movie?
I did, yes.
Yeah, what about the song that they took out Slade with?
Yeah. That one, I also love the upbeat inspirational song about life.
Yeah, that was
a
good.
good one too.
See, like the movie, I mean, not to get on too much of a tangent, but the movie felt like something entirely different. I felt like it's everything like Teen Titans Go tried to be, and it succeeded in. It almost felt like a soft core like reboot to Teen Titans Go itself. Like it was, I don't know, like it's like if all of their ideas went right for once, and like now we have like
Yeah.
the freaking, I mean, not now but beforehand, like compared to this, like the Powerpuff Girls episode, it's like, I don't know, the whole show should have been like the movie.
On the topic of movies, it is kind of funny that the Mojo's story is not too dissimilar from his idea in the movie, Monkey Army.
Powerpuff Girls movie?
Yeah, Monkey
Yeah.
Army.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
A lot less
The execution
personality.
is much worse, but yeah, it's a similar plot. Yeah.
What did you guys think of the, so jokes wise, you guys, the two of you weren't a fan of the Teen Titans talking down to the girls. Did you guys like, I liked the anti-Powerpuff Girl gas and the comment of just like, so we're just gonna stand here and then until this dissipates and then go after him? Like, yeah, okay, pretty much. I thought that was funny.
One thing besides the whole Bubble and Starfire trying to one-up each other, which I did laugh at, another thing that I did laugh at was when Mojo Jojo shows up in Titan's Tower and Beast Boy's farting while he's saying his ABCs.
You like
And
that?
I didn't laugh at it because I thought it was funny. I was laughing at it because of how bad the attempt was and that it was trying to be funny.
Well, was that Shadow? How did you read that? Was that like a parody of like dumb Teen Titans Go humor, or was that a genuine
Which the ABCs
Beast Boy
farting joke?
Yeah, I'm gonna beef the ABCs. What
I
kind of
just
line
laughed
is
because
that?
I was like, this is so stupid.
Dude, I mean, I've seen the burping ABCs joke a bunch. Maybe they were just trying to be different. You know?
I thought that
I don't know.
I was not a fan. That didn't
no,
seem
that
self-aware
was-
to me. That seemed like genuinely like this is what we think is funny.
Yeah, I mean that's typical Teen Titans Go
Also,
Beast Boy humor.
I'm still gonna say this, that I said it when we did Employee of the Month. Beast Boy, I don't like his voice in Go. It sounds like he's always screeching. I don't know why, but his intonations, like if you compare it to the original Beast Boy or like anything that Greg Sipes has done otherwise, Kevin, because there's a connection here, but I don't know. It feels like he's like shrieking all of his lines, and it's not good. And he still does the stupid pluralization thing, which I don't understand.
I forgot, in the original Teen Titans, did Beast Boy always call Raven Mama?
No, God, no.
no.
Oh man, because I was rewatching. There's this like separate like DC animated continuity called on Hulu. Well, it's not Hulu exclusive, but you can find it on Hulu. And one of the movies is like Teen Titans: The Judas Contract, and Beast Boy's in it, and he calls Terra Mama in that too. So I'm wondering, is that like a trait Beast Boy has that I just like didn't realize, or
No.
is like exclusively those two, and that's some
Maybe it's in the
weird
comics.
coincidence.
I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. What did you guys think of the narrator jokes with Robin being able to hear it? I didn't like them. I liked Raven's insinuation that he was like schizophrenic or something, because that was kind of unexpected. But Robin like arguing with the narrator, and it felt like, I don't know.
It could have been funny.
Yeah. Not an unfunny idea, but like a lot of things in Teen Titans Go, it drags. It's like they can't just do the joke once. It's like gotta do it again and again and again, and it gets less funny every time. Waffles.
What'd you guys think of the ending? Because I was not a fan.
It just kind of like ended.
Yeah.
They're like, well, the crossover's over. Everyone go home. What even happened to Mojo? Did he go to jail?
I can't even remember.
What happens is the Teen Titans sneak into Mojo Jojo's lair as the Powerpuff Girls. But I don't know if this is supposed to be a joke. I interpret it more as just being stupid. But basically, you see the silhouettes of the girls, or the Titans disguised as the girls, but they're floating, and it's like the proportions of the girls. But when the smoke fades away, it's just the Titans in like these oversized Powerpuff Girls costumes.
I hate when shows do that.
That's a joke, though. I mean,
Do you think so?
I do think it is. Whether it's a good joke or not, your mileage is going to vary. But that was an intentional joke. That's the whole mislead. that they're dressed like the girls, which I don't think Raven would do, but
I mean, I could buy the floating for Raven and Starfire. It's just Robin that's like...
Right. But the fact that they're also like 2 feet tall.
I would have bought it if they like made like silhouettes of the girls like out of like random like household objects or something and made Raven have them float over or something.
Yeah.
I would have bought them. That's probably applying too much logic to the show.
I'm not gonna say that I loved this or that I thought it was amazing, but it did when it first came out, and it does still surpass my expectations for Teen Titans Go and for the Powerpuff Girls reboot. And I would give it probably like a 6, right? Like I'd say that it's better than neutral, but like not by much. But I thought it was okay. Like I laughed enough times in this that I think it justifies its existence.
Yeah, I mean, I'd still say it's better than most Powerpuff reboot episodes.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but I disagree.
Oh.
I don't.
How many
I don't
episodes of the
believe
reboot have you seen again?
of the Powerpuff Girls reboot?
Yeah.
None. I've seen
Well.
extended clips, like a plethora of them. Like whenever you see them, like on Facebook or like.
have you
in your
seen The
recommendations.
Professor?
A little bit of them. I don't know. The way I see it is like, I don't feel there's enough redeeming qualities for this episode to exist. Like I understand it was probably, if not entirely, created just to help promote the new Powerpuff Girls reboot, like partnering it with like their #1 show. I get that, but I mean, I feel like if they're gonna do something like this, like any crossover should be treated like a big deal, and this doesn't seem like it was treated like a big deal. So I don't know. It's probably just a personal standard I hold for crossovers, where like if you're gonna do it, you might as well do it big. And this was just kind of like an average episode of Teen Titans Go featuring the Powerpuff Girls who really didn't want to be there.
I mean, to me, it's like here's Teen Titans Go being self-aware in a way that isn't obnoxious, in a way that is having these characters that I do genuinely like, or versions of them that are halfway between characters I like and dislike, kind of pointing out how obnoxious the Teen Titans characters are. And I feel like with a straight man, and I said this in my very first video about Teen Titans Go, like in 2014, that one of the problems with the show is that it doesn't have a straight man. Like Raven plays it occasionally, Robin plays it occasionally, but Teen Titans Go in general does not have a straight man. And to insert these relatively, like logical girls into Teen Titans Go universe makes their comedy so much better to me.
I can understand.
Yeah,
that.
I absolutely agree.
That's justifiable.
All right, so we'll talk about it a little bit more in comparison. But are you guys ready to talk about Crossover Nexus?
Oh yeah.
So the first thing we have to talk about is just the cameos, right? Because that's the most insane thing about this is the background cameos, of which. Okay, let's go one by one. Which was the most unexpected for each of you? It could be a reference to a Cartoon Network block, or it can be a character, or whatever. The Shadow.
My most unexpected.
There's a list here on the doc if you need help. For the ones that I wrote, at least.
Oh man. Okay. Well, I was definitely Moxie. That's definitely one that I did not see coming. Also, I was surprised that they used Robot Jones' like original voice.
Yeah.
For that really quick laugh that he did. I was like, whoa. Okay, that's really cool. What other characters? Probably like, I guess Lou from Mike Lou and Og was there. I didn't think Mike Lou and Og would be, but it's like, I think every single Cartoon Network original showed up except for like Class of 3000, right?
And Secret Saturdays.
And
Secret Saturdays? Okay.
And some other Ben 10 versions if you want to count that. But anyway, Kuro, you. What obscure references did you like?
All right, so I recently watched a video that pointed out every single cameo, and I can see how.
Don't plug other people's work on this podcast.
Okay, well, I'm not saying who it is. I'm not saying who it is. But I can see how in theory there's a lot of like unexpected cameos. Like there's cameos from characters who only even appeared in pilots, or like characters who appear in like Latin America exclusive Cartoon Network shows.
Villainous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But personally, I was surprised when I saw Generator Rex in there because from what I've seen, that's one of those shows that like Cartoon Network like never acknowledged. Like whenever like CN City, I mean, he was a little bit after that, but for an example, or like whenever you see those giant posters of like a plethora of Cartoon Network characters, he was never there. So the fact that like he was there and like acknowledged and represented it made me really happy. So I liked seeing him there.
Monsters.
I just want to say before listing my references that just major shout out to Ian Jones Cordy and the OKKO team, because everybody knows that's at least a longtime viewer of mine how much of a fan I am of the Cartoon Network City era. So this, and knowing how much Cartoon Network doesn't acknowledge these sort of things, when I saw this, it was completely out of left field, and I wish I had my reaction because it was absolutely insane. But besides that, I was really surprised to see that they referenced Symbiotic Titan, because they kind of wrote off that show, and the network didn't promote it too much. So I was surprised to see that. I think I know what yours is, Pieguy.
Golly, from out of Jimmy's head.
Yeah,
It wasn't the one I was excited to see, but just the most surprising because there was that, and then there's also a reference to Tickle You in some graffiti.
Yes,
which is
the
like
preschool block,
right? And Har Har Thursdays was other graffiti, and
Oh yeah.
the Wedgies mascot. Like, no one's gonna know what I'm talking about, but he's there in graffiti.
yeah.
Okay, so like you hinted at this, Monsters, but we do need to acknowledge that this crossover was not, Cartoon Network did not make this, push for this, or care about this. Ultimately,
Yeah.
this was because Ian and his team, and I don't know who else, maybe Rebecca Sugar or whoever else was like, yeah, do it, and you can use my character in your show, and we'll help you, and blah blah blah. It's them. It's those people, the creatives at Cartoon Network, that cared and that made this, because Cartoon Network gave about as much promotion to this as they gave to the Minecraft special of Adventure Time. And they didn't give that much attention either.
Not to mention, this came right before the Minecon live stream.
Yeah. But like to put it into perspective, I mean, Teen Titans Go, I don't really remember the Teen Titans Go Powerpuff Girls crossover promotion, but I think it got a decent amount of press.
It did.
It did.
The
They
only
promoted
reason,
it as Heroes versus Heroes.
yeah, well, the only reason this got press was because it was at San Diego Comic-Con, and fans cared about it. Cartoon Network didn't do squat. You know how Cartoon Network promoted this? And I'm going to say it because if you're watching this podcast at some point in the future, maybe you don't know or you didn't catch the promotions. They advertised this as a Raven event from Teen Titans Go.
Raven Domination. Yeah.
Raven, no joke.
That was only a week beforehand too. Like
Yeah.
you'd think like something this big they'd be like plugging for months.
This is what every fan, like I would assume that even current younger kids who maybe don't even know who half these characters are still excited about Ben 10 and Garnet crossing over, like the current shows crossing over, like there's that appeal. But Cartoon Network didn't care, and that's I find that just so pathetic, because if Cartoon Network did care, yeah, this should have had so much promotion. This should have been such a big deal.
Yeah. And it's clear that a bunch of effort went into all of these character references and all the locations and all of the logos that they featured. It's clear that they did a lot of research and a lot of drawing, and a lot of extra work went into this.
Right.
This special essentially represents Cartoon Network's legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got almost everything, since its foundation. I mean, starting with Moxie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's there's a reference, there's even reference to the music. I know we haven't gotten to that point yet,
We
but
will.
yeah, there's reference to the music, there's
everything,
reference to the
everything.
blocks, everything.
They even referenced the Problem Solvers in Secret Mountain Fort Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Ian apparently worked on one of those shows. I think that's why that got such prominent.
Yeah.
So here's the I just kind of found certain things interesting about the cameos. Like, for instance, did you guys catch when Garnet was talking about Steven Universe? All the characters from Steven Universe were there in the background in the poster, in fully colored and everything. When Raven was talking about Teen Titans Go, they all got silhouettes. Do you think that was a licensing issue, or is there some weird shade going on? Because
Well, I do think that maybe that's a right issue because Teen Titans Go is the only non-Cartoon Network original that was in the crossover.
And Teen Titans, the logo at least.
Their silhouettes were like a little bit off model too.
But technically, Warner Bros. Is also owned by Turner.
Yeah, but you're right. There were no other, to my knowledge, like, you know, what is it? Like Bugs Bunny didn't appear in this, or Total Drama, because that's an acquired series.
Yeah, anything not CN original, like the Star Wars shows they had, like those weren't on there.
I'm sure Disney would not like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Do you guys think that was an issue? Because I mean, Raven mentions Beast Boy, and I wonder. I don't want to be like conspiracy theorist, but like.
No, I can see it because that's why Class of 3000 didn't appear, because of its likeness to Andre 3000. Mm-hmm. It would have had to be a whole thing, and Raven is at her core a DC character. So.
Do you think there was some sort of weird like chain of like, well, Cartoon Network wouldn't approve this crossover unless it had their biggest show in it, and then they couldn't get their biggest show in it unless, you know, it was just Raven, and like I don't know. I kind of wonder, because that's like weird, right? If you know, when you do something like that, you show characters in the background when you're talking about a show. Typically, you do that with the other shows. Ben didn't get anything like that, which is a little odd as well. There wasn't a uniformity in that, like. I don't know. I thought that was a little interesting. I just kind of wanted to point that out.
Wouldn't it? I think it would have been funny if Ben like walked up to a bunch of X'd out, like all of the different incarnations of Ben 10, and been like, "Whoa,
yes,
right. I wonder who these guys are."
Oh my god, because I was thinking how like the whole thing is just like, maybe it wasn't even intentional, but it's like a giant analogy for like Cartoon Network's shows where like the Everything X was like canceled and in the past, and the 4 ones are the ones that survived.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting point in that, yeah, nothing else from Ben 10 got any representation aside from Ben mentioning Gwen, and his grandpa and traveling around. But like, you would think that maybe like Ben would have a splash behind him with all of his aliens or something, like when he's introduced.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or yeah, I mean, having Ben's other forms there, not his other forms, his other versions of Ben, you know, crossed out, and having like a weird joke we made of it, like that just kind of writes itself. They did that in the 20th anniversary shorts. Like they made a joke about all the Bens interacting.
Right.
That seems a little weird to not have anything from those other series in there.
I mean, as a hardcore Ben 10 fan, I'm personally used to that because that's how Cartoon Network treats Ben 10. That's also why I was surprised to see Generator Rex there, because they treated him the same way. So just the fact that Rex was even there to begin with was like, wow, they're talking about him. So I would have killed to see like a Ben Prime reference. That's what you call it, the original Ben. But like, I kind of expected they wouldn't do anything with it. Mm-hmm. I didn't expect for Forearms to be the only alien though. Like that was a slight letdown for me, but I mean, I get it.
Yeah, it's always gotta be Forearms. But they were they were economical about it, because that's John DiMaggio, who they got to voice Jake. Could you imagine, right? He wraps up recording for Adventure Time, and then they're like, "We need you for one more thing." I assume. This may have
Imagine
been recorded
if
before.
all 4 crossover characters were Tara Strong voiced. So they got like Bubbles, and then they got like someone else.
Well, that's the other thing I wanted to mention. The other interesting thing is the Powerpuff Girls. They're in some ways they're all over this, and then in other ways they're weirdly not here. Like, so the Townsville's town hall is like the first thing you see in the whole thing. Like, it's prominently featured. It's right where Strike hangs out at the beginning. And then there's also Malf's. There's also a Powerpuff Girls poster in like the hall with all the Frozen characters, but there's no Powerpuff Girls characters Frozen, and Buttercup appears at the very end of Ben's transformation so fast that you have to freeze it, or you wouldn't even necessarily know she's there. That's interesting for a show that paid so much legacy, but obviously there's something weird going on where they don't. The Powerpuff Girls reboot was a failure on all fronts. I think.
Is it even airing anymore?
It airs when a new episode comes out, but it hasn't aired reruns in forever.
I didn't even know they were making new episodes.
Yeah, it's on its. It hasn't been like confirmed, but it's rumored that it's on its last legs. Like, there's only a few more episodes to go.
Mm-hmm. But that's interesting. I mean, of course, the big note is that Buttercup does not have a cowlick, which means nothing if you don't know about the reboot. But
and thick outlines.
Right. So they represented the original Powerpuff Girls. There's nothing in it from the reboot. But it is interesting that they didn't, and especially considering Tara Strong is all over this. Like, they could have had Bubbles be amongst the featured members of the characters be brought back, the voiced ones, very easily with no issue. But again, there's this incongruity with maybe current fans of the actual reboot would feel weird about her original voice. I don't know.
I wouldn't buy that excuse personally, but I mean, for me, it's like, okay, I do want to add on to that by also saying Dexter got less rep than I thought it would.
That's true.
Considering he was such a, he was essentially the first cartoon. He was kind of a big step forward
also the
for the
Eds.
channel. Yeah, the Eds.
Yeah, it was only Double D.
Double D got that long wind up,
Yeah.
though, which I did like, but yeah.
But the last thing I did want to mention about just the characters before we move on to the main characters, at least, Finn and Jake. Like, the fact that Jake starts off, he's the first one that Ben transforms into, and then Finn is the last one. That was really nice. Like, for a show that just ended, for them to get such prominent, like, Jake gets a line, Finn's there with the robot arm too to acknowledge that it's it's like later in the series, Finn. It's not like whatever. I just thought that was a really sweet send off for these characters that have been a part of the network. It's such a huge part of the network that even though the Powerpuff Girls didn't quite get the representation they deserved, that Adventure Time 100% did. Like, that you couldn't really ask for more aside from another main character in it, and that would have been weird.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the 5 main characters in this, and to go to what you were going to say, Kuro, about Strike. You didn't like Strike?
I liked Strike specifically, if that makes sense. Like, I like what they did with him. I like everything about him. It's just the fact that I have that personal high standard for crossovers where it's like you get your network's 4 biggest heroes and you give them 11 minutes to do a crossover against like a low tier villain. He's kind of disappointing for like what this could have been, like the most biggest event in Cartoon Network history. Like, this could have been something amazing and we get him. I like him. I think he's funny. I think he's great.
Wait, him was in this?
Yeah, no, I mean, if Strike took off his mask, who do you think's under there? But, like, I just wish we got something more than Strike, is what I'm saying.
I 100% agree with you. I think, well, I agree with you in not being happy with Strike. Honestly, I think Strike is garbage. If Strike was a villain in just like an episode of OKKO, fine. But for this, especially because they didn't give much time to the story itself, which we can get to later, but like because it's a lot more about the crossover potential, since you're not even going to focus on it, you might as well make him a character from an existing Cartoon Network show or OKKO. Why not make him an OKKO villain, right? Like, wouldn't that make sense?
Yeah.
Or I would go with, I mean, him would not be the worst of choices. Like, go with some sort of reality warping villain and just run it like that. Like, there wasn't really a reason to bring an original character into this, especially if there's no time to develop him or give him anything. He's, I bring characters to this world to kill them, and I do it unfairly. Here's a good champion.
Here, my biggest issue with him is, don't get me, I like him as a character, but not in this context, because he's supposed to be this guy who's taken down all these other heroes, right? And then it's like, well, now it's up to these 4 to kind of stop him because he's beaten everyone else. But I mean, as a joke, I love the long power-up sequence. But as a villain who's supposed to be this super competent guy who's taken out so many other heroes, like, that's how he goes down.
He's a cheater is what he is. I mean... But like,
yeah,
I mean,
but...
like, you could have done, so if you wanted to do an original character, you could have, since every other inch of this is dripping in like Cartoon Network legacy, like, make him a nude, like, do something that's related to the legacy of Cartoon Network, even if it's an original character, something, I don't know, make him Fried Dynamite Man, or make
if it was a nude that like switched
WK.
between different Cartoon Network villains.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Oh, that would be cool.
I don't know, make him
I did like his motives, though. Like, how he was such a powerful villain and already defeated so many Cartoon Network heroes that he had a lot of hubris by summoning other ones from different dimensions.
That didn't play with me.
You didn't like it?
Nah. I've seen this concept. I mean, it's Secret Wars from Marvel. It's It's that one episode of Teen Titans. It's like, I am the the gauntlet of champions, and I will defeat the best one. Like we've seen it. It's not awful in and of itself, but it's like he has no personality aside from Hammy Evil that like you could have. Dude, I don't know. Make him orange and call him Nick, and like do something stupid with it. Like no, like I'm serious in that. I mean, I don't know if they can get away with that, but make him. I don't know. Make him a sentient CN loco or something weird. Like, make him the
Cartoon
internet.
Network's always the villain.
Make him the internet. The internet's the villain for Cartoon Network. But like,
I think they were trying to do something like that with him, because if you think about it, like I was saying earlier, how it seems like them walking down that long hall of all the stone people seemed to like be some analogy of all their failed shows.
But it wasn't. But hang on. But it wasn't, because also like Infinity Train characters were there. Villainous. I think that's a way to read it, but personally, I don't think that's correct. I don't think that's. I mean, you can interpret it however you want.
Well, what about like the name Strike and everything, and like the red X? Like, I don't know, maybe like. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about like YouTube copyright strikes or something. I feel like they were trying to do what you were saying, and it's. I mean, they didn't succeed, but I feel like there was something to it that they were trying to grab at, and I guess like Cartoon Network just didn't care enough to give them the time and budget they needed to pull this off.
For me, I kind of saw the name Strike as kind of going along with his whole pen shtick. Like he just seemed like a that was kind of his motif, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Speaking of which, how did you guys feel about the evil red pen? Because at first it's kind of like a almost like a villain, but then it becomes like a really convenient plot device.
Oh my god!
Should we save that for the story, or because?
I mean,
it's almost like a character. But
if we, I can answer that if we continue to talk about characters. Let's go to Ben, because that pen. I mean, not so much the reboot, but even the reboot a little bit. It's always been a show where like you can't just do anything. Like there's no characters pulling things from behind their backs or like surviving like unfathomable like injuries and whatnot.
Wait, for OKKO?
No, Ben 10.
Oh, I don't know.
No.
Grandpa took quite a few tumbles.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, but
I agree with you. It's not a Bugs Bunny
the fact
cartoon.
that like he vaporized the Omnitrix, and Ben's like, oh well, that sucks. Now I'm stuck as forearms. I'm like, what? And then I mean, is his name just KO?
His name is KO. Yeah.
All right, so KO recreates a new Omnitrix, like with a pen, like with no prior knowledge to how to even like, I don't know. That's just like a nitpick, but it just really bugged me how he can just create a new Omnitrix with a pen. Right. Also, the fact that every single scene Ben was in, his head shape was drawn differently. Regarding Ben, like, look at all the cameos. They try to make sure they all keep the same art style. And a lot of them, like, it's like not clip art, but whatever you would call like the basic like drawings of characters. Yeah, like you'd see on backpacks and stuff. Yeah, a lot of them were just based on like the regular like action models you'd see of them. Whereas like the main characters, Raven, Ben, and Garnet, were drawn in the OKKO art style. And it's like it's like they were done like without a model sheet almost, or like they like were given their original art styles model sheets, cuz like they all look incredibly inconsistent with like every single shot, and like especially Ben.
I agree.
A reason why I have kind of stayed away from OKKO, I do not like their art style and animation style. I want to make it clear that I understand it's a style, and I understand that it's not just them being lazy, but it looks lazy as heck. I like there's a part early in this where KO's nose line overlaps his eye line. I think that just looks awful. Like I know it's a style, right? Like, and I agree with you guys. Ben gets it the absolute worst. That is a great observation. Wouldn't it have been funny if Ben was drawn in each scene? He keeps changing between Bens.
Oh, right. See, that would have been funny.
Yeah, right. Like there's Omniverse style for a second, and then there's original Ben, but no, he's just weird looking. He doesn't look like reboot Ben. Like he looks like I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with him, but I hated the way Ben looked in this. And Raven also had Raven looked good in general. Her art style like kind of fit with OKKO's, but part of her eye like overlapped. Like there are some shots where her body parts like overlap things, and it looked weird. Garnet, I think they probably had the Crewniverse working close with them on
Yeah, Garnet didn't look too bad.
No,
but
Garnet,
like the fact that like Forearms and Raven were the same size in one shot, just
Yeah.
that's ridiculous. Because Forearms is supposed to be like 14 feet tall or something.
Raven was so small.
Yeah. Speaking of that part, did you catch anything about what Ben says to be inaccurate, Kuro?
What did he say? I might have when I was watching it, but
Right. I think I pointed out to you when we were. So Raven's flying them over this pit, and none of the rest of them can fly. And Ben's like, I have a hero that can fly. Then you have 2 heroes that can fly.
yeah, true.
I mean, doesn't Ben also say that he can switch between 10 aliens when at this point they've already introduced more than 10?
Well,
That's a whole thing. That's a whole thing.
That's a but I do find it suspect because I mean, unless they didn't make Heat Blast be able to fly in the reboot, maybe I'm not aware, but that was a pretty big deal in the original show anyway.
Yeah.
It's not a big thing. I just kind of found it like I liked that moment though because that was very much like sassy Ben, like, and then Raven has a great response where she's like, "Wow, that's great."
yeah, be real useful.
So, what do you guys think of KO? As most of us aren't really familiar with the show, or all of us aren't familiar with the show.
I'm completely unfamiliar with the show, so this is like my first impression of KO absolutely ever. I don't even think I've seen like a commercial for it.
Okay.
Right off the bat, I don't like his voice, but it's also something I got used to very fast too. So I guess that's not too big of an issue. I guess there wasn't a lot of him in this episode that really got me attached to the character. It was kind of just like typical protagonist, like dialogue and actions. He didn't really feel distinct to me.
Right.
So he was kind of just like the typical kid hero.
I agree. If the point of this was to like get gateway people into KO, which I don't really think it was. I think the point was just genuinely to celebrate Cartoon Network. But if the point of this was to get us into KO, yeah, that didn't quite do it for me. Like, I'm interested to see how they do their crossover with Captain Planet.
Their
but
what?
in terms
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
it's real.
yeah.
Oh, jeez.
It's real and scary. No, but like, yeah, KO. It's not that I didn't like him in this. He came off as really kind of milquetoast and compared to all these other characters that are very animated. And maybe that's the point because he kind of says that he doesn't have powers at the end. So maybe his whole thing is that he's got low confidence and he doesn't feel like a hero yet. Like from the little I understand, but he didn't really rub off on me too much. Whereas, like, I definitely got a sense of Garnet and Raven and Ben's personalities pretty strongly.
All right. Well, so the basis of OKKO is that KO is basically he's a hero in training. Like he's in Lakewood Plaza, and there's a bunch of heroes around, and KO wants to be the best hero he can be. He wants to learn from everyone and kind of develop his own skills. And in that sense, him meeting Ben, Garnet, and Raven made sense because they're all heroes from their own separate shows. And KO kind of like looks up to them. And like, I really like the moment where he and Garnet kind of like punched the red things
fish
together. I thought, yeah, the Swedish fish. I liked when they punched those together. That was a really like heartwarming moment.
Yeah.
From what I know of KO, also, I'm pretty sure he's supposed to be almost kind of like a parody of like Naruto and Kid Goku.
In a way, yeah. I've seen less than 10 episodes of OKKO, but I have seen quite a few, and I didn't really see anything different from those episodes, so I can definitely say that like they didn't change him specifically for this. He seemed just his plain old self. So if you weren't really sold on him in this episode, I'm not surprised because they didn't really do anything out of the ordinary. Yeah.
Whereas like to get the comparison slightly, the other episode was very much like a Teen Titans Go episode with the Powerpuff Girls in it. This one didn't. I mean, it felt like an OKKO episode in that, from the little I've seen, it seems like a universe where a lot of this sort of thing could happen, even though this was technically in a different universe. But it didn't seem like an OKKO episode in the terms of KO did not get more screen time than anyone else. In fact, it seemed like he had the least of the four. So moving along, Garnet. Garnet was perfect. There's no, like, she acted exactly as she should. She had a really funny line with her prescription glasses, which doesn't make sense in terms of Steven Universe, but it doesn't matter. It's funny. Her interactions with KO are beautiful because it's how she interacts with Steven, and she's obviously used to that. And then there's also the meta element. If you don't know this meta element, that ending part where Garnet and KO kind of have a special bonding moment seems like a little weird, or a little like, why this instead of any other character? It's because Ian and Rebecca are, I think, dating.
I think maybe engaged.
Yeah, they're very close. Let's just say it like that. And so, and Ian worked on Steven Universe, and they both worked together on, I think, Adventure Time, something like that. And so that's why, because those two characters, Ruby from Steven Universe is based on KO, despite OKKO's show coming out after. Ian had these character designs from before, and so that's why, which I think was a little missed opportunity, but I don't know how they could have really incorporated Ruby into this.
Also, the Liquid Plaza Turbo and Steven Universe pilots came out at the same time.
Oh.
Which is funny, but...
I was actually going to say a fun fact. Ian actually did a Twitter thread earlier today going through a bunch of facts about the special, and he actually hinted that there was supposed to be a Ruby and Sapphire moment within it that they had to cut for time, but based on the board that he showed, it looked like KO and Ruby were actually like doing the same movement. So I don't know if they were going for like a mirror type gag or something like that. But I think if they had done that, that would have been really funny.
Huh. Yeah, I agree. And then the last of the main characters is Raven, and I gotta say, as a fan of the original Teen Titans, this was like original Raven. Like, yeah. I didn't get Go vibes from this Raven, to be honest with you.
Yeah, she seemed very original to her, like, 2003 self in this.
Even though she didn't look like her.
Nope. Except for, like, that very last thing when she, like, switched the logo from the Teen Titans to the Teen Titans Go. That was kind of good. Right. But...
yeah. All right, so let's move on. So we talked about the art style a little bit. I don't want to like impress my opinion onto everyone. Like, did we all kind of like agree on that though? Are we all in the same boat of not being crazy about the art style of? Okay.
Yeah, I'm really
liked
not.
it.
You liked it, Monsters?
Yeah, I like off model stuff.
I mean, maybe if I saw a few episodes of it prior, but I've only seen this, and like, of course, I relate it to the characters it's using, which come from a different art style, so I'm probably a bit biased. But from what I've seen from this crossover, I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I wouldn't say it was bad.
I like off model stuff when it's done like well as a gag, not just something that's like forced, but. I mean, for the most part, I thought it was fine. I definitely was distracted by a few of the shots, like the one that everyone was like, before the special had aired, that one with Raven carrying everyone. Raven's proportions on that were just like so distracting. It's like,
forearms
what happened
Forearms
here?
was like a thumb head.
Yeah, it's like, I don't understand. Like, I get that it's the style, but like it's distracting.
Right.
I don't
see. That's what gets me. Sorry, not to interrupt.
Yes,
but that's what gets me.
No, that's fine. That's my issue too. Is like it's fine if it's like subtle or if it's like, you know, here or there. But when it just diverts my attention, I'm like taken out. And I'm like, oh, that does not like no. What happened?
Right.
Like that's when it's like it's a problem for me because I'm not immersed anymore. I'm like, okay,
yeah,
what happened?
And for the record, like you were saying, the rest of the like the cameos for the most part were like on model because they kind of looked like they were traced. Like, no, I'm not accusing them of tracing. They might have just literally taken the art assets, and that's fine because it's like, you know, it's the same network, and it's not. There's nothing wrong with that, especially if it means that they're gonna not be distracting. The only character, aside from like the little off-model moments of the main character, the only character that looked really odd to me was Double D, and that's because that animation style of that original show was so radically different from most other things. There was no way they could have Double D without him looking bizarre. Like, and that's okay. Like, I don't know.
It's interesting they chose Double D too. I felt like they can only have like one character per like franchise, or like one or two, because like
Finn and Jake.
You know, yeah, because like Double D, he was Finn and Jake, but he was also shown as a statue too. So it's interesting. He was like as a statue in one scene, and then in another, Ben transforms into him.
Most of the characters in that transition sequence, or the transformation sequence, all kind of had a similar physique in that they were kind of like skinnier and tall. So like Mordecai, Double D, Uncle Grandpa. I don't know, maybe that had something to do with it.
That could be it.
Uncle Grandpa had a voiced cameo, which was weird because
Yep.
That's the one that is weird. All the rest of them make sense. The villain is voiced by the same guy that did Weasel's voice. That's why he spoke. John DiMaggio was Forearms, which is why Jake spoke. Robot Jones is just like a computer voice.
That's text to speech. Yeah,
I'm surprised they even had him in because he was there only to voice like 1 or 2 characters, and all he said was "Good morning," so they could have just used archive audio because he says that in the theme song. So
yeah,
Maybe they did.
that might have been what happened. I mean, I don't mind it at all, or maybe Greenblatt helped out with.
Well, I mean, he got a voice credit, so
not Greenblatt. Peter Brown-Guard did. Yeah. Interesting. I mean, honestly, if we were picking villains, it would kind of be funny to have Uncle Grandpa be the villain, especially considering his thing in the Steven Universe crossover saying that he's going to go to the other universes, that like this was all some gambit to get everyone to get along or something. I would have bought that. I mean, just throwing that out there. Anyway, all right. The length of this, the pacing and the length, it being 11 minutes. What did you guys think?
Oh no, you go first.
Everyone sighs.
Yeah. Well, the first thing
that sums it up.
The first thing I wanted to point out is I loved Garnet's line where she pops up and KO's like, "Who are you?" And she's like, "No time for introductions." But the second thing is Shadow mentioned that Twitter thread that Ian posted about the behind the scenes of this. They pitched it as a 22-minute episode, but Cartoon Network was like, no, and they wanted it to be 11 minutes instead.
Yep.
Which is why that's how it ended up by being that.
But I mean, yes, the 100% yes. It's Cartoon Network's fault. I do feel like, yeah, the people behind this would have made it 22 minutes, but for some reason, Cartoon Network hates itself.
Yep.
But regardless of what it could have been or should have been or whose fault it is, I think, honestly, even if it had only been like 4 minutes longer, it just would have helped it. It only would have helped it. Like, I don't think this needed to be like an hour and a half or anything crazy, but 22 minutes would have been great. 15 minutes would have been fine. Like, but it should have had just a little extra time. And it's so sad if Cartoon Network wouldn't have given it to them.
Yeah, I was just checking out that thread, and apparently they created Strike, the villain, just because it was an 11-minute crossover. So that kind of only like further proves like his lackluster significance as an antagonist is because of the condensed 11 minutes.
And I understand why if they were going to skip out on one thing, I guess it would be the villain. It's just, it doesn't make it okay. Like, okay.
I would have just not have it be a villain. I would have had it be like some type of like cosmic like disentanglement or something.
The pen itself.
Yeah,
did the villain even need to be there? Like, really?
Yeah.
The pen itself came to life. I don't know. It's Bugs
interesting
Bunny and
because
Duck Amuck or something.
Yeah. The story itself didn't have me that invested. I was more invested in the fan service, but the story itself just wasn't that intriguing to me.
Well, so this is a big question that I wanted to pose to you guys, because ultimately this is crossover first, cameo first, continuity nod first, everything else second. Aside from the music was just, I don't think there's much to say about it other than just that it was phenomenal. It was amazing how they incorporated the Cartoon Fridays theme, just the cartoon theme, the
city theme.
Yeah, the city theme, the new beats, like
all the different show theme songs.
Right. The Ben 10 remix and like all that.
Also,
sort of
the music at the end when everybody was returning to their respective dimensions, like that kind of like somber music. I thought that was also really good.
That was really good. If you guys have a chance, you should definitely check out the SoundCloud that has the soundtrack, because the music in this episode is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%.
But the question I wanted to ask is that how far do you guys think that takes this? To start off, I think if looking at this as like a piece of 11-minute media, like as just, I don't know, like a celebration of Cartoon Network, like this is phenomenal. This is, I would have never in my wildest dreams have expected something this cool to happen. if we're looking at it in terms of an 11-minute like story, I don't know. If you strip away the cameos, what is this? But I guess that's why do that? Because that's the whole point. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I completely agree. I feel like they definitely harped on the fact that this was like a Cartoon Network love letter, and I think that was the best direction they can go with it given the standards they had to oblige to.
Yeah.
Whereas like the second you start like trying to take it seriously, you'll find all the flaws and all of that. But it's like this is such a fun episode. Why would you even do that?
Right. Like, yeah, I mean, story-wise, you could say, yeah, why does the pen give him the power to transform into all these Cartoon Network characters? There's no,
can
there's
KO
really no reason.
create a new Omnitrix like nothing?
Yeah, like,
It's gonna
and then
bother me till the end of time.
And then we have a viewer comment on this. I just from Robotic Operating Whatever. Okay, I just want to point out they never told us that Ben's Omnitrix went back to normal when he goes home. So for all we know, he still has a weird Omnitrix that turns him into CN characters.
Right?
That's really
See
funny.
That's another point I have about crossovers is I hate when they're not canon. Like I mean
Really?
they're still enjoyable. Yeah, like but it's just like if a crossover happens, it's just another personal thing. I'd like for it to like matter, like them reference it later on or be like, remember
It
when
could
this
have all been a
happened?
dream, but then he pulls out the card.
Exactly. Like what if later on in an OKKO episode he actually like I don't know if the cards do anything or not, but even if the card like shows up or something, I would love that.
They did
That would
kinda
automatically make this crossover better.
They did kind of hint that there might be a Steven Universe crossover with KO, which wouldn't be that. I mean, if Uncle Grandpa can happen, literally anything could happen on Steven Universe non-canon. And then it wouldn't even necessarily have to be non-canon on OKKO from what I've seen, just with how weird that series can be.
So, like, are they aware they're in TV shows now? Because their shows' logos are literally above their portals, and at least Raven points it out, so it's not like they're there just for the audience. Like, those logos are physically there. Like in
Those
the
logos
episode.
were hilarious, by the way, because you have
Yeah.
you have OKKO's kind of like weird like
80s retro.
well, pencil like drawings,
Yeah.
and then you
Yeah.
just have superimposed logos of the shows hovering right above the portals, and it's just it was just funny with how just like not fitting it seemed. So what about the jokes? What did you guys think of the jokes?
I thought there was some pretty good jokes in there.
Yeah, any favorites?
I loved when KO talked to Ben for the first time and was like, "What do you do, little boy?"
10.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, Ben 10.
I don't know why, but I really liked when Garnet is like punching all those red things or whatever they were. I think they were just like I don't remember what
The
they were.
Swedish
They were-
fish.
Yeah, the fish. And then like KO like starts to thank Garnet. He's like, "Oh, thanks, Gar," and then Ben just cuts him off and just like, goes, "Yeah, thanks, Garnet." I don't know why. I just thought that was hilarious how he just cut it off because he was like, "My thank you's more important than yours."
Right.
And I liked the smug Ben of like I have flying aliens too, because he has like this stupid like cheek smugness,
Yeah.
you know. And Raven has a good response to that. There's also, let's see. Oh, I don't know if you guys caught it, but during the villain's power up sequence at the end, when they're giving their speech about like, "Oh, my friends were here all along," the villain's still screaming in the background.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Right? Yeah.
That was great.
I will say there were, I mean, again, it's 11 minutes, so like we could talk a million things about missed joke opportunities, but I thought like the obvious one was when KO was like, was it "Let's go Ben, okay universe" or whatever, and everyone groans at it, and for some reason Ben and Raven give it a 0 and Garnet gives it a 10. Why did Ben not give it a 10? How did they miss that joke up?
Oh, you know what? That would have been
you're
a great
right.
idea.
Yeah.
He
that
probably would have
actually-
even liked that too.
Wow.
Yeah, but what's the punchline? The punchline is that, oh, Garnet's so nice to KO that she'd do that. Like, that's not a punchline. That I feel like, yeah, that would have been a better punchline. I mean,
Yeah, I agree with you. I didn't really even smirk at that part. I was just kind of like stone cold through
yeah,
it.
that was a very, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, what that speech at the end that KO has about having friends here and stuff like that went.
That's something I question that, because at first, like, Garnet asks him, like, what about you, KO? And he's like, well, I never lost my powers. And then it shows the three of them kind of, like, looking sad. And I was like, why are they...
I thought they were confused.
I was.
Well, like, Raven specifically has, like, these sad eyes. And she, like, looks down. And I was like, why is she sad? And then, or KO says something like, yeah, I don't have my friends, but now I have friends here. And then they all smile. And I was like, wait.
But, like, that would have made sense if the group started off by fighting, but they didn't. At no point, even when Raven is being sassy as all get out, she's still a part of the team. Like, and that's something that this could have really used to help the story part that was so weak, is some sort of journey. Like KO, that could have been a purpose for KO, right? The heroes don't get along, and it's KO and his obnoxious fanboy ways that gets them. No, but like it's KO that gets them to all come together as a team. I feel like that would have been, and I don't know anything about KO, but I feel like the ability to rally people into a team would have maybe fit with his MO.
I wish they would have played with the fact that Tara was Ben and Raven more. That would have been nice to get a little joke out of that.
Yep. Well, neither of these crossovers plays with that joke, because both of them had an opportunity to. Not that Tara is Bubbles in the other one, but that Tara used to voice Bubbles in the other one.
Yeah, I don't even think like Raven talked to Bubbles at all in that crossover.
Are we ready to move on to comparison?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm ready.
So, basically, I kind of only had 2 points on this for talking, and the first thing is, maybe a few more. I guess the first most common element is Raven, because she's in both of them. Which version of Raven did you like more?
Same.
Yeah, mine's obvious. Especially because she was more willing to participate. Like,
right.
That's ultimately her downfall in the Go crossover. But it is interesting to see them both side by side. It's also interesting to point out that, at least to be in Shadow, the girls were acting more like their original counterparts, where in this one, Raven is acting more like her original counterpart, which is like interesting. Not incredibly surprising, especially if this was made from a fan's perspective, because I don't want to put words into the creators' mouths, but if I was a creator at Cartoon Network, I'd be bummed at the amount of screen time Teen Titans Go gets. Even if I had no animosity against the show or the people that made it, I'd still be bummed at the attention it gets. So they probably drew on original Raven maybe more intentionally. But how the other thing is, they're two very different types of crossovers. Whereas Teen Titans Go and PPG, I felt had more of a story to it. Whether or not you think it's a good story or bad story, it was definitely a more concise journey of the characters. There was an element of the characters trying to get along. There was an element of them competing with each other. Whereas this one was like, there was so much in there that they didn't have time for any sort of emotional journey. Like, What do you guys think? I mean, I don't think there's necessarily a better or worse way to do things. I just think it's interesting to look at the two different types of crossovers.
I think the first one, the Powerpuff Girls and Teen Titans crossover, that was, in the background, it was made just to promote the Powerpuff Girls. But I feel like from creating a crossover, it was written more for like those crossover tropes where it's like, what would happen if these characters interacted? How do they explore each other's worlds? Whereas the Crossover Nexus was more of just like a love letter to Cartoon Network, and it was more like a celebration and all of that. So it was less about the characters and more about the idea of the crossover, whereas the Powerpuff Girls one was more about introducing the characters to the audience.
Right.
So they like came at it from different angles and whatnot, and I like the idea of the first one more, like Powerpuff Girls and Teen Titans. I like the more story-based crossovers, but Nexus, in my opinion, was more enjoyable because it was just done very well for what it was. I loved it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is how the shows blend the characters is a little different, because in the TTG, PPG, they intentionally pair up the characters with their quote-unquote counterparts. I mean, I guess Beast Boy and Styborg's counterpart was Mojo, but it is a very much like classic crossover, like, let's pair these characters up and see what they can do. Like, that's how the Family Guy Simpsons crossover works. That's how a lot of crossovers in history have worked. Let's pair the characters that are similar and have them go on their own journeys. Whereas this one, it was like, Well, you get a few different moments of interaction between KO and Garnet, and then you have like small interactions between Ben and Raven and Ben and KO, but like I didn't feel like Ben really paired off with any character specifically and got close to them. Same thing with Raven, same thing with Garnet and everyone else. It just kind of felt like when there's more of a bigger group, there's less individual interactions. You know what I mean? Whereas especially like I feel like really if Garnet didn't have the special connection, like because of the creator, I feel like Ben and KO would have probably gotten along a lot better and been more focused. Because they're both heroes in training. Like Garnet's not that.
I would actually, yeah, I would see that dynamic a lot more.
Yep. All right, so Kuro answered, but what do you guys think about which one is better or which one you liked more?
I personally, I would say I like Nexus more just because, I mean, I love fan service, but I pretty much agree with what Kuro said, you know. They both aim to do different things, and I definitely like the idea of the first one more with the whole characters bouncing off of each other, because that's just like the perfect thing to do in a crossover is like, what would happen if these characters met? And as you mentioned, it seemed like a lot of that was lacking in Nexus. There wasn't much aside from KO and Garnet and like a few one-liners here or there. But again, that's probably due to the 11 minutes and them trying to cram in all the references and everything else.
Right.
Overall, I would say that Nexus had the... I would say it had more appeal as a crossover, because TTG v PPG ultimately just feels like a Teen Titans Go episode with the Powerpuff Girls in it.
Yes.
Whereas this one feels like it is these characters crossing over together in one, you know, one group. I would also say that I like the humor of Nexus more, even though there was a couple things that didn't make sense. But like, again, Garnet's prescriptions glasses joke. Oh, that one was priceless. I love that joke. And I also liked when Ben just said, Ben screamed the new jingle when he was running through the building, and I was like, okay, you know what? That was subtle enough that okay, I'll give you that.
It's so unexplained too. It's just
he's just like new, and then crashes through. It's like, okay, I mean, hey, they got it in, so it works for me.
They should have gotten.
Works for me.
Raven should have said, "I'm your new favorite show." Or something, or
or something
I don't
like
know. KO loses a shoe and she finds new ones. She's like, "Here, your new favorite shoe." Hire me, CN.
Oh my god.
So for me, OKKO's crossover Nexus takes it by a long shot. Teen Titans versus Powerpuff Girls was alright, and yes, OKKO's crossover Nexus has its flaws, but I see myself revisiting the episode many, many times in the future. Obviously, a lot of it's fan service, but, you know, hey, I'm a fan. Hopefully Cartoon Network notices the positive reception, and maybe they'll encourage more of this in the future. I certainly hope so. In terms of my verdict as to what the best Cartoon Network crossover of all time is, I'd have to rewatch The Grim Adventures of the KND or the Mad episode Once Upon a Tune.
Well, no one
but
asked
this
you
is
that,
definitely
so.
up there. I'm just saying for my personal rankings.
I gotcha. That's fair. Yeah, I wish I could like be like subversive and just be like, well, actually, the Powerpuff Girls Teen Titans Go crossover is better, but it's not. I do feel like if the Powerpuff Girls and Teen Titans Go crossover nailed the ideas that they tried, like were really funny about it and nailed it with the character interactions, I think it could have had a good chance. And I think that you could really argue that like, well, the story's better and this is better and this is better and this is better. But as it stands, although I enjoy it, it still has its flaws. And which one do I want to watch more? It's Cartoon Network Nexus over and over again. I watched it like 3 times in the span of 2 days. And I'm sure I'm on the low side. I'm sure people are going to be in the comments being like, I watched it 80 times. I see you, Vox. No, but like seriously, Nexus blows it out of the water. It does have flaws, and there are things that like 100% could have used more time, should have had more time. Not the creator's fault, but still a problem. But just like, where else would you see this in terms of doing something that's never been done before? Like, okay, yes, there are tons of crazy crossovers, but in terms of Cartoon Network, I mean, to this extent, never. Even, I mean, the Great Adventures of Candy is nothing compared to this in terms of crossover power.
Well,
No, not at all. 4 shows get prominent spotlights, with about 4 or 5 other ones getting voice cameos and about 30, 40 other ones getting non-voice cameos.
well, in the Grim Adventures of the KND, they reference a bunch of things, including there's an entire scene that's just Ed and Eddie, yeah, in the style of Ed and Eddie. Also, at the end, the giant villain is comprised of like dozens of
Non-speaking
different
cameos, but that's not, you cannot
Still,
compare
and then the
it.
credit
It's
sequence
like-
at
it's
the end,
like
I know
in
that
K&D.
technically doesn't count.
In K&D, the cameos were more of just like pure fan service, where it's like, oh wow, I saw that guy in that frame, and I saw this guy in that
Yeah.
frame. But in Nexus, it was like part of the plot. Like the fact that these cameos were here, like mattered. Like they were present in the environment and had something to do with the ultimate overarching story.
I would also argue that what makes Nexus what gives it an edge is that it went the extra mile and it didn't stop at shows. It referenced the blocks, it referenced music, it referenced like the whole city
Promotional
in general.
material,
I love the
Yeah,
fact that it was
went
set in the Cartoon
so
Network
much
city.
farther.
Not only do they cross-reference shows, but they cross-reference eras between eras and blocks and
Yeah,
all sorts
like
of
they
stuff.
even when they were doing that final like wind up punch where Ben was just transforming into all the characters really fast, the background was the
CN-dimensional.
Yeah, exactly, and it went from the CMYK to the black and white checkerboard. Like
It's
that
insane.
in and of itself was like big to me. And, oh man,
This is the best 25th anniversary they could have gotten. I don't know if you guys saw,
for the
but they put out
26th
like
year.
yeah,
no,
right.
no, but last year was the 25th, and
Yeah.
and they put out like a little video of like all of the characters transforming into each other in the CMYK color scheme. But I didn't really find it too impressive. But this is absolutely fantastic.
I'm surprised this wasn't like network demanded. This has all the
Yeah.
signs for it, yet it was like completely creator support.
But I think if it was, here's the thing, it might be a blessing. Like, don't get me wrong, I would have loved 22 minutes, and I would have loved them to actually promote this. But I don't know, maybe they wouldn't have been able to reference out of Jimmy's head. Maybe the network... No, seriously, like the network's buried that. Well, speaking of being buried, also, we didn't talk about it up at the front, but the crossover between the Teen Titans and the Powerpuff Girls, I couldn't find this thing. Like, literally, I have... Teen Titans Go is on Hulu, it's on DirecTV, it's on Cartoon Network's website. None of those have the crossover listed anywhere that I could find. I don't know if Cartoon Network's intentionally trying to bury it or if it's considered like a special episode with special licensing issues, but I couldn't find it.
See, it's weird because at least from the sources I've seen, it's listed as a regular episode of season 3.
Right, episode 40.
Yeah, so it's like, because I remember when we were looking through Hulu, we couldn't find it. I was like so flabbergasted by that.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's an odd tangent, but I mean, it's to the extent that Cartoon Network doesn't even want to, they don't seem to care about that other crossover. I mean, really, like, I mean, you could have used this as promotion for such a crazy launch of just a bunch of DVDs. Here's classic Cartoon Network on DVD again.
Right.
Like they could have used this as this was ultimately a commercial, really. I mean, even to the extent that Ben's like, I transform into 10 different aliens and I travel across the country with my grandpa, and like that sounded like a sales pitch.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just baffling that Cartoon Network didn't care, because this is it's amazing because we've reached a point where our childhoods, the stuff we grew up watching, now there are people our age and a little older that are making the shows, and they remember these cartoons and they care about them. Like that's just really interesting.
For sure.
So yeah, hats off to Ian and his crew. Regardless of what I think about the rest of OKKO or the art style or anything like that, this was just something that I could have never, ever guessed they would have done. People were bringing forth the idea that, oh yeah, it's the CN City because of the promotional images. Like if you cross-reference this, and I was like, there's no way. What show would ever reference a programming block? Like,
yeah.
when has that ever happened?
This was just beyond my expectations.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
I'm really, really glad that they just like kept us in the dark.
Yeah.
Because all we really had to go off of was the name and like the 4 characters, and other than that, we had no idea.
Do you think that was intentional?
No, I think Cartoon Network doesn't care.
Yeah, that's what I was worried about too, because this seems like something like I don't know if I feel like if they realized it was as big as it was, they would have like unintentionally like ruined a lot of it, which is kind of a good thing. So
I see it as a blessing in disguise.
It might not get like the recognition it deserves, but I think it's almost beneficial, the fact that like Cartoon Network themselves weren't as involved, because it probably wouldn't have been what it is now. It probably would have been a straight up commercial.
Well, that's a great point, because I mean, we talk about how much of it is in the cameos, and if Cartoon Network had released a trailer of like the characters walking through the hallway with all the characters in the background, basically if they had that scene and or the scene with Ben transforming into all the characters, that would have completely ruined it, right?
Yeah.
Because if we already knew that was happening, what is there to look forward to in this? I mean, there's little character moments between the mains, but like that surprise, it did really, really help this. And so I think you're right. It is. I still, honestly, I would still trade Cartoon Network actually caring about its legacy and the shows that made it so great in the first place. I would rather that than have this, if that makes any sense. But since it turned out this way, I'm happy with, at least there's that. There's the fact that it wasn't spoiled.
Right.
So. All right. Now, are you guys ready for the trivia game?
Let's do it.
Okay.
All right.
KO.
So, I took a Wikipedia description from every Cartoon Network show to ever exist.
Oh, I think I'll do good at this.
Oh my god!
I think I'm gonna do great at this.
And then I threw those out because that was too much. So instead, I decided to take the existing trivia from episodes 2 and 3 of the recast, which both of you were on respectively. And we're just going to do that. We're going to do a mix of those two to see if you guys could do better than you did previously. All right. I guess this is to start. Shadow, how familiar are you with Ben 10?
I've seen the original, and I saw like 5 episodes of the reboot, but I've seen like nothing of any of the series in between.
Okay. And Kuro, did you watch the original Powerpuff Girls?
I loved the original Powerpuff Girls, not to the degree where like I would like know their mythology and everything, but as a kid, like I've pretty much like seen a ton of it.
All right. And Monsters, you were here for both trivia games, so you should get all of these correct. All right. So the way the game is played, you have to tell me whether it's a reboot or the original. I didn't obscure the characters' names, so you'll know whether it's Powerpuff Girls or Ben 10, but you just got to tell me reboot or original. There's no handicaps this time. Because Kuro lost when he played the first time, but only because we gave him such a strict handicap. If we were given the same standard as Monsters, he would have gotten a perfect score, I think. Something like that. All right. Round 1. When the professor is kidnapped, the girls must go to a mysterious island to save him. Monsters. Reboot or original?
I'm going to say
And what show is it? You don't get any points for that, but I hope you know.
Powerpuff Girls.
Okay.
And I am going to say reboot.
Kuro.
I'm going to say reboot, because I don't remember a lot of the OG Powerpuff Girls episodes taking place outside of Townsville.
And Shadow?
It's reboot.
All right, you are all correct. It's from the episode Salamander.
Hey.
Ben finds people making shows about his alien forms. Monsters. What show is it?
Ben 10 Classic.
Shadow? You gotta ask yourself, does it sound like something a reboot would do? Or does it sound like something an original?
Say it one more time.
Okay. Ben finds people making shows about his alien forms.
I'll go with original too.
Kuro?
Yeah, it's the original.
You are all correct.
Hey.
Okay.
I think this description is wrong too, because I'm pretty sure it's only the one show, but
Yeah,
It's
it's
not
only
plural.
one.
he runs it to 2 shows though. All right. Number 3. So you're all tied. You're all good. Okay. Who's gonna make a first mistake? That's the real question.
Probably me. Let's go on.
All right. Monsters. The girls enter the mayor's dream world to find the source of his nightmares.
Interesting. I'm gonna say Powerpuff Girls. Original.
Ooh, I want to say. I'm gonna say reboot again.
Okay, and Shadow?
It's the original.
What?
Ooh.
Yep.
Yeah, season 6.
Yeah, the mayor's not that much in.
How did they get into his nightmares?
The professor builds a machine.
Yeah, I bet.
And he attaches it to their head, and they go in. Yeah.
I
All right.
remember that one.
Yeah, it's season 6, so I wouldn't be surprised.
There's also another dream episode of the Powerpuff Girls original.
Speed
Right.
Demon? Was that a dream episode?
What's up?
No, never mind. I was thinking of a different episode.
No, Dream Scheme.
Yeah.
You're thinking of Dream Scheme.
All right,
Yeah.
so Shadow and Monsters are tied with 3. Kuro is at 2. Number 4. When a mysterious rain cloud plagues Townville, Bubbles learns things aren't what they seem. Monsters.
Ben 10, no. Powerpuff Girls. What is it? A mysterious rain cloud?
Plagues Townville. Townsville.
All right, whatever. Reboot.
Shadow?
Am I supposed to go last?
No,
on
no,
this
I'm
one, too?
alternating between you two. It's not based upon.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I thought it was based on the show. Oh, okay. Well, that's the reboot.
Which one did you say, Monsters?
Reboot.
Okay, and Kuro?
I was gonna say reboot too, but I'm pretty sure Shadow just told it's a reboot.
Yeah. That's why I was
Yeah,
concerned.
I think
'cause
he
it's
should
like,
he
wow.
should go last on the
Alright.
Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah, I feel like I should go last on the Powerpuff
Alright.
ones, you know?
It almost alternates. Whatever. All right, so Kuro is at 3, Monsters, and Shadow at 4. You are all correct. The episode is called Largo.
I think that's
I-
the only one I've seen.
See, I would have gotten this wrong. I would have said Nano of the North from the original.
Right. I remember from the last time that you tried to trick me with it, which is why I knew it right away.
It's like a month and a half ago at this point, or 2 months ago. So, you guys' memory is sharp, though. All right. Number 5. When the mayor's mansion is stalked by a vicious monster, the girls must step in to help. Monsters, did you attack the mayor's mansion?
Yeah, well, yes, I did. Interesting. This is very vague. Very, very vague.
Yep.
When a vicious monster attacks the mayor's mansion.
The mayor's mansion is stalked by a vicious monster.
Stalked. How can a mansion be stalked if it doesn't move? Anyway.
I didn't say the mansion doesn't move. I didn't say that.
Okay.
Allegedly.
Okay, I'm gonna say original.
Okay. And Kuro?
I'm gonna say original too.
And Shadow, tell them what it is.
It's the reboot.
Oh.
Midnight at the Mayor's Mansion.
No.
Yep, Shadow is
Rip.
correct. Shadow pulls ahead.
Well, it was good while it lasted.
I don't think the Mayor's Mansion is ever shown in the original show.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, I thought he
did
lived
the
in
mayor
Townsville
have
Hall.
a mansion, but I didn't
The-
want to sound stupid.
Wait, no.
I
wait,
mean,
we watched an episode
it's-
where we see the Mayor's Mansion for like 1 second when Princess takes over the town.
Yeah.
I always
Yes.
thought he lived in Townsville Hall.
I was about to mention the you see it from the inside in a few episodes. There's also Powerpuff Bluff. That's another one where you see the inside of his house.
All right, so you're up by 1, Shadow, but there's 3 more questions.
Yeah, it's,
And-
and they're probably all Ben 10s, so I don't think it's gonna last.
All right. 3 crooks steal the rust bucket. Monsters, which show is this?
Oh no, because I remember when I was editing this, hold on, just give me 1 second.
No,
It's
no, no. Answer now or you lose the point.
okay. I'm gonna say it's the reboot.
Okay. And Shadow.
This is like the most generic. Wait. Plot
Doesn't this
description.
also happen in both series?
Shh. Hang on. You gave your answer. Let Shadow answer.
Is there? Are both answers right? Like
I can't say. Thanks,
What the-
Monsters. I can't say though. Go, Shadow.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say both answers are right.
Okay. And Kuro.
I don't know.
It's the original series.
Kuro is correct. No, monsters.
I
in
didn't
the
know we could
reboot,
choose both answers all the
That's
time.
not an option.
Do I
You
get
guys
half
just-
a point?
No.
Darn
You made up a nonsensical or not a nonsensical. You made up a third option that doesn't exist, so you get no points. I'm kind of tempted to take away a point, honestly.
No, please, I'm sorry.
Ooh, do it.
No. So Kuro and Monsters are tied at 4, and Shadow, I guess I'll leave you at 5. All right.
That's really fun. I thought I could
Major
get half a
oof.
point out of that.
You can't say both answers. That's
That's
just
half.
cheating.
That should count as half a point if you ask me.
No, because then you just always get half a point by saying both.
Yeah, but if you know it, then you get one, so you'll still like. I don't know. Whatever.
All right. Well, listen. There's a suggestion and feedback tab on our Recast Discord server. If you feel free, if you want to pose your comments.
All right, let me just go over there right now.
Do it. Post it. Let people know when we record this.
There's a whole activism campaign. It's like hashtag justice for Shadow.
Well, this might determine it for all we know because it's close. Shadow is
Okay.
at 5, and Monsters and Kuro are at 4. Let's move on. Okay. Question number 7. The girls learn to appreciate each other's style after having to each fight solo.
Okay. I'm gonna go. Oh, yeah. Original.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go OG. I think I remember seeing a classic episode like that.
Shadow.
It's actually the reboot because it's Splitsville.
What?
Not
What about the one
Splitsville.
where they're fighting in the simulation?
The one where they're fighting in the what?
In the
Simulation.
original, weren't they all like fighting in a simulation or something?
I mean,
Let's see.
hey,
There's-
listen. It's possible that this plot is in both, but this is how the Wikipedia description. This is which one I took it from.
Wikipedia.
That's the question.
My true enemy.
And I remember knowing this one because it was the episode I had just reviewed at the time. So, yeah.
Yep.
Is this game rigged? Is that what I'm getting?
I mean, he's using the same prompts, so I just remember.
Yeah, I mean because it was a pretty unfair game in the first place, so I feel like
Right.
we're
Alright.
testing memory if nothing else. So at this point, Shadow wins. I'm just throwing that out there. He's ahead by he's got 6. The two of you have 4, but between the two of you, right, you determine if you tie or who comes in second.
Okay.
And Shadow, you determine how much of a winner you want to be. All right, that's a legit
How much do you
question.
dominate right now?
All right. Ben and Billy Billions clash in a duel for supremacy at the laser tag park. But when Billy inadvertently ignites a robot rebellion, their game escalates into a full-blown war. Monsters.
I'm gonna say Ben 10 Classic.
Okay. Shadow.
I think I know this because this was one of the few episodes I saw. Is this the reboot?
I can't tell you that. Girl?
Yeah, this is that freaking reboot episode called "Don't Laze Me, Bro."
Again, wasn't
Don't
Billy
lazy,
Billions
bro.
in the
That's
original?
right. I remember that.
Yes!
Yes.
Oh my god.
I remember that.
So, Shadow is our big winner at 7 points. You got almost every one of them correct.
Congratulations.
Okay. Kuro is our second place winner at number 5. And the guy who was with us for both trivia games previously comes in at number 4.
Hey.
It was good while it lasted. I did better than I thought I would.
Monsters.
50-50. That's actually funny how that played out. I got the first 4 correct, and I got the last ones wrong.
Yeah, you did really good up until you didn't. I do
Yeah.
love that. I do love that you remembered that it was "Don't Laze Me, Bro." Because, I mean, come on. But also, I feel like you probably knew that, Kuro, because Billy Billions is not a character from the original show.
No.
He's not. Okay, never mind.
Monsters, you probably should have known that too.
You're right.
So, thank all 3 of you guys for being on the podcast.
This was so much fun.
Yeah, you 3 are some of my favorite people. So I'm very happy to have
Oh,
this.
thanks. No, I had a great time. I always love coming on here.
Yeah, same. I loved it. Loved every minute of it.
All right.
Every
Well-
second, every nanosecond.
I liked like every other second, so.
Yeah, that's fair.
Interesting. Interesting. I like only prime seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Ben Prime.
Oh.
So remember, next week, Kuro will be back on for more Ben 10 goodness. And then in a few weeks, maybe Shadow will come back.
Ooh.
We'll put a poll in the description. Do you guys want to see Shadow back, or should we?
I hope.
Don't
Gosh.
actually.
Now I'm
Don't
kind of
actually.
worried. What does everyone think of me? Do they want me back? Oh man, I'm starting to question myself.
I'll always vote for you to come back. Don't worry.
Oh,
Aw.
thank you.
My vote counts as at least like 3 or 4 votes. So.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
you're both guests, so your votes supersede everyone else. So as long as you want to come back on Shadow, you're back. So
But if people vote for both, they get half a vote for yes. So.
no, if people vote for both, they get nothing. Is that how the election works? Did you vote for both, Shadow?
No. What?
That's not. Name me a voting system in which you can pick both. I do love that like.
Quiplash.
And I also love how
Yeah. There you go.
that's not an option. You can.
You can disperse your votes evenly.
No, you don't vote at all, and then no one gets. Everyone's a loser. That's what happens when you.
Oh.
Everyone is squid.
That's a very sad ending though. Like I'd rather have someone win.
You did win.
He was number 1.
All right. Well,
Anyways.
yeah. Thank you, viewers, for joining us for this recast. Let us know what you thought of having 4 people on. That's the question I do want to hear from. So, yeah. Everyone say happy birthday to Monsters in the comments. Bye, guy rules.
Thank you.
Out.
Keep it fizzy.
See ya.
I'm the birthday boy.